evening. Apologize, we had a hearing before the meeting tonight, so we apologize. We're a few minutes late to get started, but I'd like to call our regular Board of Education meeting to order. And this evening we have some students from Will L.E. Elementary who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if those guys would come up here, please. We have with us this evening the Bergeron brothers, Austin and Connor. Connor's second grade. Austin's fourth grade. Connor's in the red. Austin is here. We have the Crivy sisters, Haley and Savannah, sorry. Savannah's right here with the green. And this is Haley. And we have Amira Bashi, fourth grade. So thank you guys for being here. We love it when our elementary kids come and lead us in the pledge. So if everyone could please rise. Whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. It's the best way to start our school board meeting. Okay, I will do roll call. Bridget, Tracy, here, Dan, Ross, here. I am here, and Andy and Jeff are absent with notice. Our next is approving the agenda. Just a couple of changes. We are switching around number 6 and 7. 6 will become public comments. 7 will be items of interest from members of the board. We are going to add a new number 12, which will be public comments. And then 12, 13, and 14 will become 13, 14, and 15. We are changing up our agenda a little bit with respect to public comments. We had a workshop last week, and we're going to try this, having 2 areas of our meeting for public comments and see how that works for us. So a motion would be in order to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, it has been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have our True Blue moment. This evening, Dr. Olson.
Well, we're very pleased to recognize 2 companies here in town this evening, Padco, Gallagher, and Slanik, for their very generous donation to the Lee School Elementary Computer Lab, and Atlas Physical Therapy for their also generous donation to our elementary computer lab. And I think Adam Walters would like to explain a little bit more about this honor. Thank you for coming, Autumn.
Thank you for letting me speak. I would like to thank Pradco, Slanik, and Gallagher, and also Atlas Physical Therapy for their kind and generous donations. Through their caring support of the Lee Elementary Computer Lab, we will have a great difference made in the lives of hundreds of students, and including their families, since most of our students go home and show their parents the wonderful things that they're learning there. We have a fabulous program. I believe that we're top-notch in our county, and through this donation we will be at the top of our county for our technology program. Your gift that you have given us is already being used to upgrade software, purchase memory cards for digital cameras that are in the lab, and to purchase ink for the printer so that we don't experience any dry times in the lab, because having tangible hard copies for the students of their project, tangible hard copies of the projects for their students is extremely important. There is no doubt that the need in education is huge, and in a time when we make do with what we have, this donation gives relief, and it gives me peace as an educator to have this state-of-the-art software and devices to teach the curriculum and affect lives is absolutely amazing to me. So I thank you very much for your support, and you have definitely helped this educator make an impact on students and help them become lifelong learners. I just want you to know how very much I truly appreciate your generosity, and I will not take it for granted. Thank you very, very much.
If you would stand up so that everyone can see you back there.
We were glad to do it, and it really worked out well because someone trained our staff to kind of keep their eye open for opportunities. And Teresa Telto, who's one of our hygienists, was just talking to you, and we're not looking for anything. It just came up. She came back to us. Seemed like a good idea. We're a technology-driven society, obviously, and so the kids needed it. So we're glad we could help out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just on a side note from the board, Dr. Kratko, just to thank you. This is one of the many, many things that you do to make our school district better and our staff. So probably having you come for this is a long time coming for us to acknowledge you for what you and your business and your family does for us. So we truly appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, next is public comments. It's a portion of our meeting. If anyone would like to come up and address the board, they may come up to the podium. We just ask that you give your name, and you have 3 minutes. If there is an issue, something you would like us to answer, there's a card up there. You can leave your name and telephone number, and we will get in touch with you. So at this time, is there anyone who would like to address the board? No? Okay. Next, we will move on to items of interest from members of the board. Does anyone from the board have anything?
I'd like to congratulate the football team on winning the Blue Water Area Conference football championship outright this past Friday. You know, I was up at the game and well represented in respect to the school. Congratulations to them and good luck in the playoffs.
Anybody else? No? Okay. Next, we have committee reports. Budget and finance met, and we have your claims and account sheets that we have looked at and approved, so they're good for approval this evening. Our bond committee, would either one of you like to give a little update on what we're doing with our bond committee?
We met, we're doing a half-page ad in the Voice for just asking people to support the bond, and there'll be some more yard signs made up for people to put at their houses. We're hearing lots of good things from the parents. We had 500 parents that didn't vote last time around, and a lot of them are taking ownership to that and wanting to get out there and do what needs to be done to get this to pass.
We've done 2 additional mailings, one to all registered voters again, and then another one to
And we can't express enough our need to get this bond to be passed, to get the facility upgrades and technology upgrades that the district needs, that our students need, and our staff. And as a board, we are just looking for as much support as we can get. Those of you that are here this evening and you're registered to vote, we ask you to get out and vote. We ask you to talk to people to get out to vote. We've asked our staff, we've had our staff from our administrators to teaching staff who are doing a tremendous job of getting the message out to parents on how these things are going to enhance our buildings, our education process, and we're just asking, just keep it up. We've got 2 weeks from tomorrow, I think. 2 weeks from tomorrow, so we're in the home stretch, as they say. As Rob said, we have signs that we're going to go up. If anyone that's here this evening is interested in a sign in their yard, you can see myself or Rob or Dan, and we will make sure that we get a sign to you to put in your yard. We'd appreciate that. And great things can happen when everybody works together and make it happen. So please support us.
Every vote counts.
Every vote counts, absolutely. Our marketing committee met.
I think we spent some time working on a new brochure to go out with parents to help parents in particular, fully understand the best ways to communicate with the school district and kind of, that famous follow the chain of command. What does that actually mean, depending on, given the situation that you're wanting to make a comment about or bring to anyone's attention. So we did some edit work with that brochure, so we hope that that will be out and about soon. We also began discussion and starting plans to begin some, did we call them advisory? I don't know what we ended up.
It was advisory committee.
Advisory
Yeah.
committee.
Advisory committee.
So in January, we're hoping to have an advisory plan in place. So there would be a teacher advisory group, a staff member advisory group, parent advisory group, and a student advisory group that we would then meet with, basically just to discuss for this first kind of round come January, to discuss what are the great things about Richmond's schools and what are the things that from your perspective could yet be improved, just as a way for us to get some more feedback and from all the significant kind of players, so to speak. So we're looking at that kind of kicking off in January. We also had a good discussion about students and student population and having more, just trying to find more ways to answer the question about why did our student population decrease, where are they going, or why are students leaving or not attending here who potentially could attend here, and trying to open up that dialogue with community members and families in the community as well.
Colleen, our board rep, is going to a big help to us when it comes to the student advisory part of it. Colleen has been waiting for us. She's already given us names the last school year of students that she feels. So we're excited to get that to start. And we feel that it's important to listen to our students, our staff, and our parents, and to help us make things better. So, Colleen, we thank you for what you're going to do for us ahead of time. That would be it, right? That's our three committees that met. Okay. Next, our student board representative report, which is Colleen.
Okay, for the elementary school. The elementary school recently celebrated Fire Safety Week. Students were treated to lessons from the local firefighters and received a tour of a fire truck. The 3rd and 4th grade students have completed the MEP tests. All materials should be organized and returned later this week. The staff and students are looking forward to Halloween. It usually brings most parents to the school on any given school day. Also, the annual Fall Book Fair begins Monday and it runs through Thursday and is sponsored by the PTO. For the middle school, the MEP testing is in progress and the online piloting is going well. The peer-to-peer support program is off to a great start and the participation has been great. It is very exciting to see the students so enthusiastic about helping others. The Builders Club has also conducted a field trip to help clean up the community trail. Ms. Bartels has started a Richmond Middle School newspaper led by the students and for the students, and the students are very excited about this new opportunity. And lastly, for the high school, starting today, the high school has begun Celebrate My Drive, where State Farm has donated many items that will be raffled off this Friday during lunches for those students who take the online pledge not to text and drive. On the 26th, there will be a prescription drug take-back sponsored by the Richmond Police Department. Next week will mark the beginning of Fall Festival Spirit Week, which included a Halloween costume competition, other dress-up days, and a scavenger hunt. November 6th and 7th will be parent-teacher conferences marking the end of the quarter. The Richmond High School Theater Department will also be performing the production of Legally Blonde starting Friday, November 15th. with shows on both the 16th and 17th as well. And also during the month of November, the Student Council will be collecting used and wearable shoes to be donated to people in third world countries. There will be a Nike box in the library to place the shoes.
Thank you, Colleen. And I got to back up for a second here. We did have another item of interest that we have royalty sitting with us on the board because Colleen was homecoming queen at homecoming, and that completely got away from us. So congratulations to Colleen and for sprucing up our board table here. So thank you. Okay, next, approval of our consent agenda items.
If I could introduce a couple of staff members before we do that approval, I'd like to introduce Jamie Clausen. If you could stand up, Jamie, since you're here. Jamie has filled our special education position and has a math major as well. So that's a nice addition, one that we searched for a few years ago for a long time, and then we redid the schedule to try to make something else work, but that'll be a big asset to it. She has a degree from Saginaw Valley University, a master's in special education, and a Bachelor of Science in elementary education from Wayne State University with a major in mathematics. Very pleased to have you here, Jeannie.
I'm very happy to be here.
And we also have with us Mandy Denapole. You can stand up, Mandy. Mandy will be filling the paraprofessional position in the high school meeting center. Welcome, Mandy.
Thank you. Okay, now a motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda items.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second. Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, our administrative items. Dr. Olson, access
Okay,
request.
our last meeting, the facilities committee had made a recommendation in terms of the request by Mr. and Mrs. Russett. And I drafted up a letter and had our attorney review it as well as the Russetts, and I think they are in agreement to this. And so I just been bringing that back to you to see what was put together for your agreement. And also to thank them for their cooperation in this whole process.
There's a sample resolution.
I move to approve the attached agreement with Mr. and Mrs. Gary Russett and thank them for their understanding and cooperation.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Other than, yes, thank you very much for working with us and understanding where we were coming from, and we appreciate it, and we're glad to have you as our neighbors.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Means a lot.
Okay, I will do a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Bridget? Rob?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, Chicago overnight trip, middle school band and choir. Mr. Ostrowski.
Good evening, I'm Mitch Ostrup, the band and choir director at the middle school. What you have in front of you is a proposed trip for overnight in the last weekend of April. Trying to get the kids even more excited than they are this year for the band and choir program, and rewarding them and giving them a chance of a lifetime to go visit some places in Chicago. It's an overnight trip for students. It costs $399, which is broken up into 3 payments, and the chaperones is $439 because of double occupancy in the rooms, where kids are quad occupancy in the rooms. And it looks like we have full participation in this field trip with different deposits are going to be made and interest surveys and stuff. And looks like we'll have chaperones, probably one to every 4 students. It's first time taking middle schoolers on a trip, so it should be interesting, but I've done 3 or 4 different high school trips before. And we're going through the Brian Rogers travel agency. They're the ones that give us the best deal of everything. And as you can see, it's pretty jammed packed. We actually get to see 2 shows. We get to see the Blue Man Group and then the $1 Million Quartet, which is highly recommended from the agency, along with going to the museums, and all food is included except for one lunch, I believe. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
There's a sample resolution to start.
I move to approve the overnight middle school band and choir trip to Chicago from April 26, 2014 to April 27, 2014 as presented. Support?
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion, any questions?
No, technically, I just think we're missing a page of the itinerary. It goes from 1:45 p.m. and then jumps to Sunday at 7 a.m.
I didn't even
So I
notice
just think in
that.
our copies in our.
Are we missing?
It should be.
Here's what we have.
I just
Mitch,
think
if you want to look at what
figure
Tracy
out our-
says we have, it. She is right, we are missing.
So it goes from.
Yeah, you don't
the
miss it.
backside, right? Or is it backside?
Just the backside.
Also,
It's
it's
two going
two-sided.
to-
It
is
should have
what
been
you're
2-sided,
saying.
yeah.
Can you tell us what else
I
you're going to
sure
do
can.
the rest of the day?
Looks like we leave about 5 o'clock in the morning. I have to go through. I'm sorry to figure out what's missing.
That's
We'll get to go to the museum and do the Willis Tower sky deck, and it's that evening, which we'll see the Blue Man Group as a matinee. Then walk to one of the I can't think of the top of my head, but it's one of the famous pizzerias. So they get some Chicago style pizza, and then walk over to see what's that one?
Giordano's.
It is Giordano's. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Carrie has it.
Okay. No, that's all right. After Giordano's Pizza, then we go see the $1 Million Quartet, and we're staying at the Marriott Hotel. And that'll be that evening. And then the kids will wake up the next day about 7 a.m. and start day 2. We'll leave early Saturday morning and get back around 9 o'clock Sunday night, so they aren't missing any school. So it's kind of nice how that worked out.
And for students that might not be able to afford, or is there fundraising ability?
Unfortunately, it'll be,
Just-
because of it's both band and choir, the boosters are kind of out of the situation for fundraising, but we can try to figure out some. As we know, for boosters, the nonprofit organization has to help out the whole group, and since this is just a select number of kids, it's kind of some gray area there. But there's possibility for some fundraising opportunities.
But breaking it down in 3 payments might help a little bit.
Yeah, so right now we had the first payment was due this week, just in case, because the first payment actually for the trip is due next week. So we had to get that in, and then it's $100 payments pretty much every other week, and I think there's a paper in there that explains it to you. And obviously, if someone has financial hardship, they talk to me, we can work something out, maybe a smaller payment plan for them if need be.
How many students?
We're looking at about 45 students and about 12 chaperones.
Anybody else? Okay. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Have fun. Next, Curriculum Technology Integration Director, Dr. Olson.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you tonight Anthony Berkmeyer, who is seated right here in the front. Anthony interviewed for this, or he actually interviewed for an assistant principal position when it was open earlier in the year, and we were quite impressed with him at that time and thought about him in terms of curriculum. And then this position opened up, and we interviewed him as well as several other candidates, including an internal candidate. It was not an easy decision. We had some good people, but we feel that Anthony's education, he is finishing up on his Ed Specialist degree from the University of Michigan Flint in curriculum and instruction, would bring a real strength to the district. He also has a master's in education and ed leadership from Saginaw Valley University, as well as he received his teacher certification after his bachelor's degree from Saginaw Valley in general science and biology and chemistry. And he has a Bachelor of Science from Michigan State in human biology, in which he was planning to be a medical doctor, and then he got a touch of teaching, and that became his passion. So, welcome, Anthony, and if there are questions, Anthony is our recommendation for the Curriculum Technology Integration Specialist. He is also the world organizer of the Odyssey of the Mind final competition. So we're anxious to learn more about that involvement and what it can bring for our students as well.
Okay, thank you. There's a sample resolution.
I move the approval of Anthony Berkmeyer to fill the Curriculum Technology Integration Director position.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion or questions of Dr. Olson? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome. Good to have you. Okay. Okay, next item, termination. Dr. Olson.
I believe Mr. Meyer, you're here this evening. Do you wish to have a hearing?
I'm not sure what the hearing would require. I wasn't clear on that with your letter that you sent me.
Or do you wish to have an opportunity to speak to the board?
I presented a letter to them. I don't know if there's a question they have based on that letter. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
You would have the option of having that in open or closed session.
I'm happy to have it in open session. I don't have any issue with it being discussed in an open session.
Okay, all right. The recommendation is for termination of Mr. Marr due to the fact that he is not currently, his certification has lapsed, and so he is not eligible for a teaching position in the district.
Okay, there is a sample resolution, and we would have to start there unless, yes, unless if you're saying that you want to be able to have a hearing and have a say with the board and do it in open session, then Tracy, I'm looking at you to tell me if I'm doing this correctly, that, that the motion wouldn't be made first, that we would hear what you have to say and we would be able to ask you questions before we do the motion. I'm going to say, if you're saying you want to do this in open session, sitting right here, I believe that we would have to hold off on making this motion.
Okay.
You're going to have to tell, we did get your letter. I'm assuming everyone, Tracy did not. I'm going to pass it down. I believe you emailed that today,
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Dealing with family issues, which are also in there. I was not able to get the letter processed until over the weekend, and then I attempted to fax it in, but there was some fax issues, so I emailed it this morning.
Okay. Rob and Dan, were you able to get the letter and look at it?
Yes.
I have additional copies.
Bridget?
Yes.
If you have an extra one that I can have, because
Here, Tracy, have mine.
oh, okay. Because I just gave Tracy mine. Okay. Well, as Tracy, do you want to have me wait a minute while you read it? No? Okay. Then I guess we're going to start with, what is it that you would like to say to us with respect to what you told us in the letter, if anything?
Instead of the termination, I'm requesting a year leave of absence so that I can correct my oversight that was caused by the family situations. I've had 3 deaths in my family over the last 2 years. The last one being my wife as of July 25th. I was dealing with her illness from March of 2010, 6 months after I was personally diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I did attempt, a lot of this information is in the letter, that I attempted to come back from the first leave of absence because of that congestive heart failure. Found that I was not able to, so I had to go on a second leave. While all this is going on, I was dealing with trying to take care of my wife also. And through dealing with all of that, the death of my mother to breast cancer, and my wife's illness, which ended in her own death, I misunderstood and did not, and this is my own responsibility and I take full responsibility, but I did not look at the Michigan website, and my knowledge was that I had renewed it on 2008, June of 2008, which would have said that it did not need to be renewed again until 2014. So I was going to use the professional development of this year along with applying to a college to get some additional education to be able to fulfill those requirements, because the only thing I was missing was classwork, which under circumstances I was not able to complete. I know it was oversight on my part, and I'm just asking for an opportunity to correct that oversight so that I can come back and continue to offer all the things that I have offered for this district since 2000.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Murray?
Yes, I
Go
do.
ahead.
You stated that you thought it was an oversight that your certificate expired in June 2014, correct?
Yeah, it actually expired in 2013, but that was an oversight on my part, on a mistake that I made in what year I had renewed it.
Okay. I have documentation here that you received a letter in May to remind you to get it renewed. Is
I
that?
never received that documentation.
Is that
We sent
sent a letter? Okay. And then on August 20th, also you were sent another letter.
The August 20th I was aware of, and at that point I did contact the state, and there was no extension that they were allowed to give me to get the classwork taken care of. I know in the past they have done that. I had a associate that I had worked with at another district, and they had, because of circumstances, been able to get the extension. I guess under new state laws it has been changed. But again, this is an oversight on my part. I take full responsibility for it. I'm just requesting an opportunity to correct my error, hoping that they're able to take into account some of the extenuating circumstances that put me in this position.
And then I just have another question. It says in your letter that you're taking classes at the ISD, correct? Right.
Yes.
What,
Yeah.
Are you taking classes currently right now?
I took one earlier, and as long as I'm employed, I'm able to request another one, which I'll be taking hopefully if there's an opening. I wasn't able to apply for it because I didn't know where I was going to stand, which would be in late November, beginning of January. I've also contacted the University of Oakland University, to be admitted, and in January I'm filling out the paperwork currently. I have till November 15th to get all of the documentation on that so that I can begin a third master's degree. This time I'm looking at a master's degree in mathematics so that I can broaden my knowledge in the mathematical department. I've already created an opportunity where my first master's was in middle school, or middle school education. I can teach from 5th through 8th grade because of that. My second master's was in counseling, to give the district an opportunity if they needed a counselor at the time the openings happened. The first one I was still interested in staying in the classroom, and I've been gone on the other opportunities. So, and now I'm looking, like I said, to get a third master's degree to add knowledge and assist the students further.
This item was on the agenda at last month's meeting. I guess why didn't you take any action prior to that?
Honestly, I was still mourning. I was under the impression that nothing I could do, since I wasn't able to get a clearance through the state, was going to allow me to be able to apply for the leave of absence. And after some discussion with individuals, I was brought aware that I could apply for that extended, and like I said, I was mourning, so I really wasn't thinking completely clearly at that point in time when I received the letter on August 20th, less than a month after my wife passed away. So, yeah, and then I was also assisting in getting my daughter started with school. We were working on, actually she is my stepdaughter, so I was working on guardianship for her so that I could keep her in this district. And I had a very full plate, and at the time I was under the impression that it wouldn't have mattered anyway, so that's why I didn't take a stand. And then I thought about it and realized that I wanted to offer this district, and I was going to take an opportunity to see if it was an opportunity that's available to me.
When did you find out that you were wrong about when your certificate expired?
August, I don't remember the exact date. I was set, actually, Mrs. Michon at the funeral in July 25th said that she thought that was true. So, yes, it took me a week or two. I went and looked on the website and found that it was true. I received a letter at that time that they were going to be terminating in that time period. Over those 2 weeks is when I had was in the process of contacting the state to see if there was any way for me to get the certification under any circumstances, so that I could continue while I was working on getting the classwork I needed to keep the full-time certificate. I was hoping to get a temporary.
And the length of time to renew your certificate is 5 years?
6 years.
6 years. So, from the last time that you renewed it,
Correct.
you had all those years to make sure that your certificate was valid. And just let me finish what I'm saying here. I have great sympathy for you in what's happened. I do. But there's the other side of me that's thinking, if my family, my life depends, my job, this is my career, I'm going to know full well when my certificate is expiring. And because things do happen in life that set us crazy and turn our lives upside down. And, every teacher in this district is responsible for knowing when their certificate expires. And so, there's never any notification along the way that you have an expiration date coming up? You don't get any?
I did not receive any. If there was one,
You never anything?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to find that hard to believe for a second, only because, and I just bear with me, I'm going to find it hard to believe because I've worked in school for many years, and I know how teachers get notified and how they find out and how it's their responsibility to get stuff done. So I just find it just hard to believe in all that amount of time that you didn't know that your certificate was expired.
I can only state the truth of what I am aware of. Like I stated in the letter, as of 2009, I wasn't sure I was going to be alive to see 2010. And at that time, like I said, I was more focused on getting my health where it was and my wife's health where it needed to be. And like I said, it was an oversight on my part, but I did not receive any notification from anyone, be it the state or the district, until, like I said, on July 25th, at the funeral of my wife, was the first time it was brought to my attention that I was incorrect, that it was not June of 2014, but 2013.
Okay. And from where I'm sitting, and like I said, I have great sympathy and respect for what's gone on in your life, but something that you've had a very long time to take care of, now you want another whole year to be able to get it done, when I wouldn't have any idea, but I bet there's a lot of teachers in this district who have lots of things going on in their lives, and they're making sure that they're getting their certificates updated because their families depend on it too. You know, I'm just telling you where I'm coming from on it, that I have respect, but I'd be hard
respect
pressed.
your point of view.
Okay. All right, I'll leave it at that.
Do you have any credits finished in this time frame? Do you have any credits finished toward it at all?
That was also a mistake because I thought I had some of my last master's, and that's the first place I went to try to get the credits. And I looked and found out that the date was because of the last certification. So yes, there was quite a few oversights on my part, quite a few errors. I could make many excuses for it, but there's no excuse other than oversights and circumstances. You know, I could get into medications and things, but that's neither here nor there.
Dr. Olson, just to explain a little bit of the need that he's asking about. Can you just tell me the process? So if a leave was granted, he did what he needed to do, would it be automatic that he would come back into the same secondary level of teaching math? Would it be, how does that process work?
We would have to try to find him an assignment. And something, depending on the evaluation process, someone may be laid off, depending on if we have a greater need. You know, if we had a larger student enrollment, that we were hiring more teachers, but if we're shrinking, you know, we have had to plan for coverage of our classes. He's been on he's had FMLA leave, he's used up his sick leave, he's used other people's sick leave, he has had a year's leave on top of some of that, and so I don't know if that quite answers your question, but if you were to take a leave of absence, then we would have
So circumstances
another
might
whole
happen.
process when it came back is if we had a placement, where that placement would be, and what the impact that would be on other staff members who have their certificate today.
Right.
What type of leave would this fall under being, not even certified as a teacher right now, what type of leave is he eligible to get when he's not?
He is not under contract to receive anything. He's asking for basically a waiver. This is not any kind of obligation that we have. That answers your question.
So it's not a contractual, it doesn't fit in a contractual situation.
That's
what you're
correct.
saying.
But it could impact other people who are on contract now, who have fulfilled their obligation.
Any other questions? You're good?
I guess what's sticking to me is, I'm a teacher myself, and I get this notice prior to it. I try to do it ahead of time, and believe me, I really feel sympathy for what you've been through. It must, you know, my condolences go out to you. However, in a professional standpoint, if I would receive, you said you did not receive this notice in May. It's not a certified letter, is it?
I don't believe we typically certify because it's a reminder.
It's just a friendly
courtesy.
reminder, right? But this is what puzzled me in August, when I would have opened that letter and said, I need to do this, I need to do this for my family, I need to get out there. The MISD has so many opportunities to, you know, take any classes, and you just need 18. You don't need to get your whole degree, you just need those SBCEUs.
Yeah, I need 180 by state standards now. That was what I looked up when I.
Is that?
Yes.
Is that the new
It's
thing?
6 credit hours or 180 of the other hours.
Then what classes are you taking at the ISD?
The ISD, I took the core curriculum launch for the high school mathematics. And then I was looking into the behavioral. There was a behavioral classroom management class that's offered end of December, beginning of January that I was looking into taking.
You did enroll this fall in the university?
No, I did not. At the time when I went, the enrollment date was in July for the University of Oakland University was in the end, was in July, was the enrollment date. And like I said, this was middle of July and I wasn't aware of it until the end of July. And really that week was not looking to, which I should have, but I didn't. Again, I appreciate the time that all of you are taking to listen to this and offer me an opportunity to at least present my situation.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, then there is a sample resolution here. If someone sees fit to make it or to make something different.
I move that in accordance with the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the appointment of Dennis Marr with the Richmond Community Schools be terminated effective immediately for the reason that his teaching certificate has lapsed.
Is there any support to that motion?
I'll support.
Okay. It has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion or any comment? I'm going to do a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Tracy?
Nay.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, middle school copier.
As you might remember, in our budget workshops, we talked about the copiers and some of the different buildings, and the middle school copier had 4 million copies on it. They actually have 2 copiers in the teacher's work area. One of them had over 4 million copies and one has over 2 million copies. ICON gave us a couple different options on replacing copiers that might best work for the middle school, and Keith decided that rather than one large copier, that we would rather replace the copiers with 2 smaller copiers, but they would be able to handle the volume that the middle school copies, and then we would move the copier with the 2 million copies to the media center area so that staff in that wing of the building would have access closer to their assignments. Each of the copier is $10,761 for a total of $21,522. These were bid out through the state, so they're on the My Deal site, which is a state website where they bid out these copiers. So we know that we're getting the best pricing. And we're just asking for approval to purchase the. We're using capital projects funds. We talked about there were about $55,000 left. We bought some computers, and you approved some computers for the middle school lab, and there are some funds still left, and we would like to use them for the copy machine. So this doesn't have any impact on the general fund budget.
Thank you. There's a sample resolution if someone would like to make it.
approve the purchase of two MP6002SP copiers for the middle school teachers' workroom at a price of $21,522.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion or questions?
We need to answer this too, but purchase is better than lease, right?
It's actually it's going to be the same price. It's just we're paying interest if we lease it, so the payments would be spread out over a period of time. We pay interest on it, so no, we wouldn't save any money by leasing it.
And is this the end of that fund?
I think we'll have about $13,000 left, so that will have to be, that hasn't been determined how we'll expend the rest of that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I will do a roll call. Tracy?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Next, our Neola updates. This is our first reading, and as I had talked to board members, email, texted, conversation, this was a lot of stuff to look at, and that we just received Thursday. But because we do these in a process, we do a first reading, and then a second reading, and then we do an approval. We can go through these. Linda's going to go through and talk. If you've got questions, we can ask them, and we'll do this again at the November meeting. So if there's more questions, this isn't just we're going through it and we're going to approve it. We're going to look at it a couple times, and if we have to look at it 3 times because of how much we have, that's what we're going to do. So I think it'll kind of take care of those of us that got through a lot of it, but not all of it, or this is our first time reading these things and having questions.
And I think if we go through it together, it won't be quite as overwhelming because the stack I received is twice this high because I have the administrative guidelines that go with it also. And it is very overwhelming, but there are sections of this that are repetitive in that they apply to the professional staff, they apply to the students and to the support staff. So there's some redundancy here, and that will make it go a little bit faster. Also, since we have new board members, and unfortunately, Bridget, I keep wanting to call her Bridget. Bridget has not received her board policy, and I always open up my board policies when I'm working on these, so I can kind of see the differences. Because what they do is they send us the template that we originally selected from. So what we may have is our actual board policy may not quite read quite the same way, but we've already made those selections on items that, say on the first page, on the conflict of interest, this is a revised one. And so all we really have to look at are the changes, and the changes are usually bold type. So it's not like you have to go through every item on the page necessarily, and until we had a chance to do this in person, I'm kind of difficult to explain all that just on the website. The other thing is you receive the yellow sheets, and the yellow sheets give an overview as to why an item is changing and that type of thing. So now there was a discrepancy this time around on there are some brand new policies in here, and that just says new policy at the top, but it's not all bolded. So that was confusing to me, and that's when I contacted our representative who hasn't been coming out. They used to always come out, but I pretty much had gone through it by the time we got here, so he's waiting for me to call him these days. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk you through some of this. Hopefully it will help make it a little bit easier. And then the wellness policy in the back from his advice in speaking with him, he said, you know, the wellness policy that Neola puts out has a lot of options in it, and they all sound good, so people tend to take all of them or a lot of them. And what we need to be cognizant of is that we have to have documentation for all of that on an audit, and it is part of a regular procedural audit within food service. So we want to make sure that those are items that it's easy to have that documentation in one central place, and that it's manageable. And so we formed a wellness committee. We'll meet at 3 o'clock on Thursday of this week, and hopefully be able to review that. I think we have a lot of good things happening in the district, and I think we're actually doing it. It will be a matter of reviewing it, making sure where it is, and that people are comfortable with it, and are getting any documentation they have to Sue, who is offered to act as chair, and then bring a recommendation back to the board for a second. And if we want to do a third or reading, we can, but at whatever point we're comfortable with it, then that will be in a good place on that one. So,
before we get started, the wellness, that's the meeting Thursday at 3 o'clock, right?
right, and it'll be in the middle school media center. If there's someone from the curriculum committee that would like to be, or another board member that
I can't get here that day.
we had to have.
How long is it?
I'm pretty confident we'll be done in an hour once people get to, you know.
Would you
I'll be a
mind?
few minutes late.
Would you mind me going and just kind of seeing what the, thank you. Thanks.
I emailed it to everybody, so I'll email it to you, and then kind of go.
Thanks, Rob.
I think that'll make it easier. Okay. First is conflict of interest, and this is in conjunction with the law PA 606 of 2012, which expands the type of situations which create a conflict of interest for board members, including situations involving board members. So the first page, there's that cross out on intermediate school district. Page 15 of 18, changing pecuniary to financial, public places. Page 16, a board member with a conflict of interest in a contract may not participate in a discussion of the contract. And then we did not take that next section, so we don't have to take any changes there. That completes that one. On job descriptions, our board policy ends at the second paragraph, so we're not affected by the next section unless somebody wants to change it.
So because we didn't take it the first time and it's revised, that's why we would only want to take this if at this time we thought we wanted to add that other stuff. Otherwise, we can just keep it how we had it. Just because it's been revised, that doesn't matter.
No.
We took those two paragraphs because that's all we wanted to do.
Unless it says, you know,
Some kind of new law.
yeah, that we would really need to, but in that situation, I don't think we need to. Okay. The next one has to do with family medical leave of absence, related to expanding military-related leave entitlements. In particular, the final regulations expand from 5 to 15 days the amount of rest and recuperation FMLA leave on an eligible employee is able to take to spend with a covered family member, and create a new qualifying reason for leave category for parental care and so forth. So this applies, and this is all new policy, even though it's not in dark bold print. So I would recommend on page 3 that we take item 2. And the reason I chose that one is because in each of these categories, we want to, whether it's 1630, 3430, or 4430, which has to do with support and professional staff, we want to be consistent. So if we were to take a different one, we'd want to do it the same in each of them. Otherwise, it gets to be really hard to administer.
And by that you mean, no matter what your job is, your average, it's the same across the board. That's what you're saying?
Yes. That however we want to determine the 12-month period for determining hours worked and the use of leave, that we define it the same for all groups. We just, otherwise we're constantly looking it up. And I'm suggesting that we use the 12-month period measured forward from the date of the staff member's first FMLA leave. Is the one. Okay, page 5 of 10. In the original one that we had in another section, we didn't take this, so I'm suggesting we not take that. Whereas board members shall require or the staff member may request that we not take either of those. And the same on the top of the next page, 6. I think I crossed through that and I did. Okay, so now if we can go to 3430 and do it at the same time, you'll see what I mean about the redundancy, and it will go a little faster. This is how Paul did it, and that seemed to help me a lot, so I'm hoping it will help you. Okay, and this is the same thing. 3430. Everybody there?
Yep.
Okay. And then it's the addition of the highlighted part on the person in the next few pages. On 3, again, I'm taking the middle one for consistency on the option.
Can I just ask, why do we have to do it in the different sections? Why can't it just be a FMLA policy for all employees?
Because that's the way the board policy is laid out. It has the 3,000s are professional staff, the 5,000s are students, and the 4,000s are the support staff.
Okay, so that's why we just can't have an overall. Okay.
Right, because then it doesn't kind of fit their scheme of how things are organized. And so 5 again, we didn't take that together, original, so. And then on the bottom of that page 6, there's a little highlighted section, brings it up to date with the law. On page 8, again, that's an automatic.
And that's because that's law. That's why when you say that that's automatic, but we can't not do that.
And then 4430, it's the same thing again, only for the support staff. And you see, this looks very familiar. And again, page page 3, just the second one. It helps to do these as a group too, because then just make sure you got it consistent. Okay. So that takes care of FMLA. Harassment. Again, this is another one where we have it in 3 sections, 1662, 3362, and 4362. So again, a lot of redundancy, so that helps it take care of this stack a little faster. Okay. On the first page, we did not take the option there. And when I say the option, Bridget, when there's a bracket section, like right here, that's an option. You don't have to take it. You can take it if you want to. And we did not. And it wouldn't prevent us from offering counseling services, but we do have some counseling that are included in our MESA coverage and so forth. So I don't think it's necessary for us to take that. It doesn't prevent us from doing it if we've got circumstances warranted. One of the big changes here with that harassment policy is in the past they've had one officer, and now they're asking for a male and female. And so I've always been the ultimate compliance officer, and tomorrow I'm going to ask Anthony to be the male. Since he'll be in central office, I thought maybe that would be a good choice. And so I had asked someone else earlier, but I don't think he'll mind. And then it's got the complaint procedure in there. The other thing that is noted here is, remember the last time we did these policies, we had the option on the language concerning sexual orientation about transgender and the expansion of the terms in that. And they're now saying, they're recommending that that not be an option, but by some previous case law that's come out in the last 12 months, that Neola believes that this language should be mandatory and not optional. So that changed this. On page 9 of 18, I indicated that we would publish the names of the individuals of the compliance officers in our parent and student handbooks and on our website, because that's basically what we're doing now, and that's pretty available to people.
So say that again, on 9 of 18, what's going to happen?
The compliance officers be included in the student and handbooks and on our website, because that's what we are doing now.
So the overall district's website?
Are logical places, yes. Well, there would be on each individual too, because they have their student handbooks on the website and they're in that. On page 15 of 18, in terms of the process, I selected the decision of the superintendent shall be final as the option, and we'll go differently.
That would be if someone has a complaint and it's gone through the process?
Yes, it would go through the, basically through the chain of command, and the superintendent would make the final determination. It doesn't mean it still couldn't be appealed, but it would hopefully not have so many.
if you're one of the, what are they called? Compliance officer. So you would be a part of that process all along? Compliance officers, right?
If they came to me directly, but if they came to a building administrator, perhaps not, but then it would go up. It would depend on the nature
But you did
of it.
cross off here where you talk about the appeal process, doing a lines through that. You just said they could appeal by crossing it off. Does that take away that right to appeal?
No. Not really.
Tracy, are you asking because if you're a compliance officer and then you have the final say? That's what the question you're asking, I think, right?
Well, I just read that, because it just seems like in what I read, that the compliance officer is a person who's a part of the process of this, investigation or whatever you want to call it, about the complaint. Where I can see another district that wouldn't necessarily be that, maybe someone else is,
Yeah, I would, the compliance officer in Van Buren, and it was a larger district, and people could still make a complaint to their building principal. And then, depending on the nature of it or the seriousness of it, they might decide that I needed to be involved sooner, or, the person making the complaint.
But if you're part of the process as the compliance officer, and then you get the ultimate say on what happens, I think is the question. If you're part of the process, and then when it comes to the end, you're the last say.
I'm the last person that investigates.
Yeah, but if the superintendent has the final determination, but yet they're part of the process all along, isn't that a conflict of interest? Should
But not the harasser.
What?
Not the person doing the harassing.
I get that. But I'm saying, if going through the process and you're part of the process and then you ultimately get the final say, is that the way to do it? Or should there be someone else being a compliance officer? Is that what you're asking?
Well, that doesn't mean that if there are not other administrators who also enforce the policy.
Right.
And then people would come to them. It wouldn't mean that I'm going to hear every harassment issue that comes up. But I would be the final decision maker on harassment complaint. And the final investigator on it. As superintendent.
I just was wondering
If we had a human resource person, that person might be the person.
I just know when hearings come to other situations, we're sort of we don't know anything about it. We're the, fresh place to come and hear the two sides and make a decision. And I just didn't know if that was necessary for this policy as well. That's what we were doing.
Well, I think, remember, Margaret, when we did some of this selection in the beginning, and Paul said, or no, the person that we worked with, and he said, you can or can't put it in here. And we felt ultimately that they could appeal still, but if.
Yeah, I just, on page 13, this paragraph here. Throughout the course of the process, the compliance officer should keep the parties informed of the status of the investigation and the decision-making process. I think really that's only the question. If you are the compliance officer, this is saying you're involved through the whole part of the investigation as the compliance officer. And then as the superintendent, by having the final say, to me, it just seems like that doesn't work. What's that?
Maybe it's not necessary to have that. I mean, if you're saying, Dr. Wilson, that an appeal would potentially come to us anyway, then
It
it would
could,
come to us anyway.
but then we also need some way to bring in some closure in what we're going, in what action we're going to take about it. You know, I had some more experience with that in another district, and it never was a problem.
Okay.
I mean, if you want it to be differently, I don't feel strongly about it. My feelings won't be hurt. I'm just trying to keep the.
I don't know, I'm just looking at it, just, it doesn't seem like that. I guess we can think about it.
Yeah, you don't have to decide tonight, and then if you have questions too that we want to ask Paul, we can do that. Okay, so 3362.
Can I ask a question about page 18 of 1662?
16?
I wonder just on page 18, when it talks about education and training.
Page 16?
18 of 18.
18 of 18. It says that the board promotes preventative education measures to create greater awareness of unlawful discriminatory practices. Training for district students and staff were appropriate.
Mm-hmm. We do some things on safe schools.
So this is new language, right?
Yeah, but this is a new policy, but we've done things with harassment in the past, and we've done like a little tutorial on harassment with our Safe Schools program with SETSAG. That's an online, we use that for our bloodborne pathogen
So that's for
annual
staff?
training. for
What about
staff.
students?
Our administrators have had things with harassment.
I just think it's
We
really
do,
imperative to.
and then we do
that.
our proactive programs, like our web program and stuff like that.
I just don't think there would be enough discussion about the bullying and
Yeah.
harassment and all those kinds of things. So I just-
I mean, not to say we can't continue to do more, but.
Comes 2431.
No, I'm coming back to that.
Oh, you
I
are?
want to do all the ones that are the same
Oh, okay.
policy
Okay.
at the same time. Because Paul's convinced me that makes it more manageable. Then the redundancy is here. So I just have to find 3362. That's where I get too many piles going. That's to the confusion, but. So. Quite a bit of new language in here in terms of the highlighted parts that are bolded. Does anybody have any questions? They're kind of pretty straightforward, not a lot of options here.
It's just all the same language, it just is highlighted, versus the
Yeah.
first section is not highlighted.
Yeah,
The same
there's a little
thing.
more to some of it, it's pretty much the same, and then a place to fill in for who the compliance officers are. And suggesting that it be an I. policies in our handbook and on our website. See, this section is 23 pages, so it's 5 pages longer than the other one, and a lot more additional language added in here and more detail, but still. All things that we don't have a lot of choice on it. See one here I didn't notice earlier on page 15. Within 2 business days of receiving the complaint, the compliance officer or designee will initiate a formal investigation to determine whether the complainant has been subjected to offensive conduct, harassment, and retaliation. And then the option of the principal will not conduct an investigation unless directed to do so by the compliance officer.
We want to check that.
I think that would be okay to check that. I think there needs to be communication as to how that's going to take place, and this is with the professional staff, and generally speaking, it probably wouldn't be necessary for the principal to, but if they were asked for information, that would be part of the investigation. And then 17, I picked the decision of the superintendent shall be final, but if you go the other way, you'll probably want to do this one the same. So that's something to think about.
But that doesn't mean that it's not going to come to us anyway, as you said, right?
Right. It may be resolved.
Right.
There's so many different, could be something real minor, or could be something of a very serious nature, which would have much more legal ramifications to it. And then $43.62 is for the support staff. This is a revision on this one. Some of these are revisions. Then all of this highlighted language is added. Again, the same, so it's not quite so much as you have to do. Again, who the compliance officers are, and then in the handbooks and on the website. Compliance and complaint procedure. And again, in 17, I've got this, the superintendent will be final, but if you choose the other one, then you want to be consistent. 41, which is managing heat and humidity. Just filled in athletic director. This is a new policy. And the third line from the bottom, it should be if air conditioning is unavailable. The purpose of this is just to provide a model policy for athletic programs regarding heat and humidity in interscholastic athletic programs. It's pretty short. And then policy 4162. This policy's been updated to reflect the current regulations for compliance with the driver of commercial vehicles as defined by the U.S. Department of Transportation. So this is revised. So this is one that we already have, so we don't have to pick those selections. We've already done those.
What about on page 3?
You've already done that.
So that is already.
I have to look. We don't have to, we can ignore it because it will be what we've already selected.
Okay.
I sometimes have my book right here and then I can look, but that will be what we've already selected unless you want to do something different.
So are you asking about the language that says it also covers staff members who guide students and its officers? Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah.
And we think that we've already selected that?
I can look it up. I got my book right here. I'm just saying we don't.
If we haven't, it should be.
That's what I was thinking too.
You got sticky notes? I can look this up.
Yeah, just check, because if we haven't, we want that check.
Because I think we did, but I can look it up.
Okay.
But we've already chosen. On page 4, though, we do have an option here that is new. And this would be whether or not, option 1 is we would have someone checked for alcohol or controlled substance test after any accident resulting in human death, where the driver is issued a citation and the accident results in an injury that requires immediate medical attention away from the scene, or where there is a disability damage to any motor vehicle that requires towing. Or the other option is after any accident, period. And after giving this some further thought and some of the things that sometimes happen, like a bus driver, hits a mailbox, or somebody rear ends them. Some of the other things that have happened is really kind of truly accidents, and I thought option 1 is sufficient. We could always have somebody drug tested if there's
reason to.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody feels differently on that, but that would be my recommendation.
Can I go back to the page 3 or the page 1 language that covers the other? Do we have any parents transferred?
Page 1.
With, talking about the
Page 3.
other employees, what about parents who transport?
1, and there's 1 on 3 with similar language. And is this only related to CMD or CDL holders?
I believe that's correct.
that is something to think about, though. Aside from this.
Well, the one thing that we do is when we do the background checks, if someone has had a history, they don't have them driving student, or they can't prevent them from driving their own student.
So before anybody has the ability to drive students, that
As a
is
volunteer.
correct.
If they've had a history of something like that.
That's, because that part of it on Sunday, that's what everything in the middle is being used for that check.
Everybody that turns there looks into everyone, she checks it. Now, parents driving their own students, that's.
Right, no, I'm talking about carpooling to athletic events. Knowing the process is you don't carpool other students unless you turn that information into your office.
Turning that in.
I mean, not like that's happening every time.
We try our best. It's a lot of people.
I just know for like for certain events too, to go to regional events or state events or something, that there's transportation, other transportation, school transportation that gets those teams to and from to. So that policy would be.
Doesn't have anything to do with that. This, because it's talking about CDL, but a policy to make.
Don't we all have a big bus that takes kids to events?
No, I thought you were talking about parents taking to extra things.
This,
I thought you were
this
talking
has to do with our
CDL.
bus drivers.
Right. But I thought you were talking about if you're taking kids in your car to.
I'm talking about any situation where there's parents or community members who are transporting kids. That's what I'm talking about.
And whether it be on our bus or
A
a
bus
different bus.
or a different bus. Is
This doesn't apply to that. This is related to our bus drivers.
And that's
This
why I said
policy.
that I think we need to have something, because we're saying that we try our best and we, to make sure that that happens, we need some kind of policy for that. That's what I was trying to say, Tracy.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say too, because if this is strictly for employees, and we know that we have non-employees who are transporting students.
I can
But some of
look
that-
and see if there's another policy that addresses what you're asking about. I can just tell you what the practice is. But this policy is specific to our bus drivers. And I can make a note of your other broader question. We can do that.
Yep.
Okay. 5112 has to do with some recent legislative changes to the birth date for admissions for kindergarten, and that's a very short policy. 5517, anti-harassment revised. The first page is pretty straightforward. There are sections that are crossed out on the changes, and then we didn't take that option on the bottom of the first page in the original one, so I'm guessing we don't want to. There was language added to this policy to make it clear that investigations of alleged bullying that appear to rise to the level of harassment based on protected rights shall be referred to the district compliance officer. Further, The list of protected classes was revised. Again, for non-discrimination and access to equal educational opportunities. So, page 2, further definitions of bullying, on page 3. Page 4 was expanded from physical assault to unwanted physical and or sexual contact. Page 5, verbal, nonverbal, and physical aggression was added, etc. Page 6, some additional language with regard to sexual conduct in relationships. And then again, the compliance officers on page 8. And again, in the parent and staff handbooks and on the website will be the location of the compliance officers information.
On page 7 of that policy, the second paragraph about reports and complaints, there's 2 places to check. After the first convenience, you're referring to check already.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think so. And page 14, again, the principal will not conduct an investigation unless recommended by the compliance officer. So, students. I would suggest with students that one be taken. Not, well. I'm going to take a closer look at that one.
So if you check that, then doesn't that somehow mean that the principal can't
I would think we
follow
would,
up?
I would think we
Have to wait?
don't necessarily want that. We
Right.
would want the principal
I think you want the principal to immediately investigate, without having to wait. Okay.
So we would just want to cross it out.
I would say just not have it, yeah, cross it out completely.
I think so. Again, in that policy, there's expanded language with regard to sexual orientation and transgender identity. It's no longer presented as an option, but is included in the language. Okay, 5517, bullying. Just the highlighted parts are the additional parts, and there's some options here, but we've already picked those previously, so we can ignore those for now.
just ask a question about page 1? Sorry. Where it says notification, the word annually is new. It's in bold.
Yes, that is new.
Okay. So it'd be annually circulated to and posted in conspicuous locations. Has it always been posted? Posted has always been a part of that.
We have postings up, but now they're all going to change because they're going to need to include the sexual orientation and transgender identity information included too. So all of our postings throughout the district. We're going to have to find changes for.
But they're posted? I guess that was just new information to me. They're posted someplace. It must not be new. It's not highlighted. But that's okay. That's just a question I had.
Okay, 6107. This is an optional new policy, and it is recommended that we take it. And we are doing some financial transactions online with our ORS deposits and other things, and I can only see it going more that direction with electronic records. So it would be my recommendation to take this. And while I checked that superintendent is authorized, it will really be the designee. 6420. This is a new policy in response to PA 606, dealing with the conflict of interest for board members and legal advisors and consultants. The law should be adopted to maintain accurate policies. So this whole page is brand new. I think we have that situation, so. And that's likely to be one that will be tested. Payment of claims is a revision as the superintendent in there is authorized for electronic transfers. Payroll deductions is an option of withholding union dues. Payments via payroll deduction is eliminated in accordance with current law and the latest judicial ruling. The revision reflects the current state of the law and should be adopted to maintain accurate policies. And this is a revised policy. Uh, 8120 is a new policy with regard to Iran to be in compliance with PA 517. Don't think we're having too many of those problems. We don't need compliance.
Does anybody know the history of this policy, where this came from, and who thought this was necessary? Word.
Well, it might be because of some of those emails that we get. Someone wanting to invest their money or whatever. I don't know. Sometimes you wonder how this stuff gets drummed up, but. 8142 is recommended but not required. This policy is provided in response to clients' request for policy language to provide for criminal history checks for contracted service and district vendors. You know, we're already asking any vendors that we do have, that they have regular and continuous contact with our students for this information, so I don't see this as a big problem. Or really that it was necessary, but apparently it is. 8390 has to do with animals on district property. This is new, and while the focus is primarily on service animals, it really includes all animals on district property. And it asks that it's a policy to meet the requirement of federal law regarding the use of service animals by student staff, visitors, vendors, and others, and establishes minimum vaccination requirements and necessary vaccination evidence that must be presented by all individuals bringing animals onto the district property. So, in many respects, people walking their dogs on campus would be a problem. If we were to try to enforce it. Totally. Yeah, there's a lot of good things within this policy to think about, but this could be a full-time job. But apparently it is fulfilling federal law, so.
So would this include, you know, sometimes teachers bring in,
Yes, it would.
people who have an owl, and
Yes, it would.
any of that kind of stuff, right? So
Mhm.
any of those people that would have to come in would have to present this information about particular animals. Or like I know, often people bring their dogs with them to pick up their kids at the end of the day or whatever. That would, right?
Bring their dog to a baseball game.
Well, I know we still haven't really gotten over this is a smoke-free, there are people who still smoke on campus.
So we don't have to.
You know, so, I mean, this is another area that would be kind of. Okay.
We
good?
If
Good.
it would be too complicated, it won't be.
Bring your papers on pet day.
All right, we're good. Okay. 8405, environmental health and safety issues. This is revised to delete language dealing with animals in the classroom or on school property. The addition of 8390, animals on district property, provides comprehensive guidance on this topic. And this has to do with animals in the classroom. Okay, 8510 is the wellness policy, and we did take about everything on pages 1 and 2 and 3. So that'll be an area that I will want to have the committee look carefully at and see if we want to have that many or narrow that down and put a greater effort on certain items. On page 4 of 16, we didn't take this, we took the first one. Page 5 of 16, we didn't take, or 6 of 16. And we would recommend probably going to physical activity. Physical activity should not be employed as a form of discipline or punishment, instead shall not. although if you feel it should be shall. Seven and 16. Yeah, we're gonna have the committee go over the whole thing, but Sue and I kind of went through and marked out those things that we didn't take on the first go round, so we could narrow it down for the committee. And, which isn't marked on yours at this point, so I could either tell you what it is, or we can just bring back what the committee brings.
That's what I would say.
Later.
That's my vote.
Okay.
So just about the animals in the classroom, sorry, I just heard that. Are they no longer, is that no longer allowed?
Well, it would be so complicated to do it that I don't know that it will be worth the effort, quite frankly.
So teachers who have pets in their classroom right now will not be able to keep it in for the rest of the year, right?
Well,
Once this goes into
today, won't happen until after the board adopted the policy. Unless it meets all these things it's supposed to meet, be vaccinated and stuff. But it certainly makes it a lot more things to think about. So unless there are no other questions.
We had the last one, public attendance at school, then 9160.
You know, on policy 8390. So this must have to do with changes to the animals on district property as well. Oh, this has to do
No,
with
it talks about
smoking.
smoking and drinking on school property.
Yeah, this, and
Bedding.
I have marked the smoking or use of tobacco and on school grounds.
School grounds, period.
Period. That's what I would recommend.
So the first page, no alcoholic beverage or controlled substance, we've already checked that at some point.
Yes. Right?
Yes.
That's what that means?
But then
We've dealt with the options here already.
Okay.
So it's just the bolded language that would be the change.
Okay.
Okay. So unless there's any questions, that is inch of paper.
Okay, next, our second public comments. If there's anyone who would like to address the board, please come up to the podium, state your name. If there's something that you would like an answer to, leave your name and phone number, and we will get back to you. Anyone like to make a public comment? Okay. Next, agenda items to be included at next meeting. Obviously, the second reading of this. Do we have anything else?
We have the grievance on the dues. I don't know if you're going to want to do that at a separate time that night, or if you want that incorporated into your general agenda. It might be easier to do it first.
What's our thought? do it that night, and the night of the board meeting, do our board business, and then do the hearing after it? Yes? Okay.
And that's the 25th?
The 18th of November?
Anything from the workshop of the city council on the items they were?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we should review that. Thank you.
Okay, all right, that works. Okay, next item would be motion to go into closed session for attorney-client letter.
Support.
And moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. We're going to go into closed session, take a 5-minute break, and then go in there.